Jambo everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Returns to Africa. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to East Africa, as including Tanzania, Kenya, and our time here in Tsavo National Park, as we now continue our trek through Africa by now heading west. But to see us on our way out of here, I thought I'd hire us a guide. Meet the red-billed hornbill, or known as Tochus erythrorhynchus. Try saying that 5 times fast. So, today we're looking into the lives of the hornbill variety, but more specifically just this guy, and why you'll see a little later. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button, check out my Facebook page, and if you have a question about animals or an animal request, just send me an email. You'll always find the link down in the description below. But if you're ready, let's get started. Now, their evolution and their family are pretty impressive. Now, the red-billed hornbill is just one example of the many different kinds of hornbills, but these birds seem to trace their evolutionary history back to a group of birds called Upiformes and Coraciformes, which would include kingfishers and even those famous small bee-eater birds. If you've seen them before, you know how beautifully colorful they really are, and how extremely diverse the group as a whole really is. Now, the hornbill as a species was thought to have originated from the Bucorvis genus, which is basically thought to be the ancient ancestor of all hornbills, so where they were mostly ground dwellers, like this guy here, the southern ground hornbill. But as time passed and evolution would take its course, the birds would spread far and wide and cover many different places, such as like this greater Indian hornbill living in the landmass of India. In Asia, they went through a huge diversification in terms of how they were able to eat, find food, and how to live, and of course, different special colors and forms, like this guy, this creche that they have. Now, and I'm sorry, the hornbill as a general, the red-billed hornbill, they were thought to have originated roughly around 15 million years ago after going immense diversification. Now let's talk about their habitat, their lifestyle, and their nesting. So red-billed hornbills live exclusively only on the continent of Africa. As you can see, they can hang out in basically savanna, dry forest, but also some semi-tropical regions, or tropic forest regions, where during the dry season, they may gather together at water holes to be able to not only get water, but to find enough food to keep themselves going, especially when it comes to mating season. Now, in terms of their lifestyle, though, they tend to live in established territories that can be up to 25 acres. And although these birds will occasionally fight one another for keeping their territory safe, more often than not, the territories seem to overlap one another, and there doesn't really seem to be much conflict. Now, can anybody take a wild guess as to what I have here? That's their nest. I know. Wait, that's their nest? They're not building a nest on a branch? No, they are what you would call cavity nesters. And I'll explain what that all means. But right here, if you couldn't see it, there it is again, right there. You can even see the little bits of some beaks in there. How does this work? Well, first to begin, mom and dad work together. They form a bond, they breed, and the father picks out the place where the mom and the eggs are going to be. And yes, I said both mom and the eggs, because after finding what might be maybe an abandoned bee's nest or even a woodpecker's hole, which has now been abandoned, the bird will, after breeding and after selecting the site, the both the male and the female kind of work together, sealing the female inside, except for this tiny little slit in the middle, where then, throughout the entire time that mom is incubating the eggs, dad really is the ultimate working dad by constantly flying back and forth all day searching for food to bring back to his mate. There, in this tiny little slit, he passes food over to her and feeds her until soon the eggs begin to hatch. As the hatchlings start to get a little bigger, mom breaks out of this cavity, which has been made mostly from hardened mud. They break it open, and mom and dad work together to feed the hatchlings. Soon enough, the hatchlings are able to fly off on their own, but more generally, they will actually stay with their parents for the next 6 months, so as to understand the world around them and how to find food. At least when the oldest chick is 21 to 22 days old, that's when mom kind of breaks out of the nest, and then also in that meantime, she also molts her feathers or replaces them. So not bad for a nice little break. So to be for a while the stay-at-home mom, and then when the time is right, get out and help her husband or her mate. Now, hornbills most hornbills that you probably know of are pretty strong fruit eaters. And yes, they are, but they can't just feed on fruit forever. The red-billed hornbill is highly omnivorous. They'll eat insects, they'll eat carrion, they'll eat baby chicks, they'll eat other eggs. They've even been known to snack on rodents. But we won't get on that. We won't continue that for a while. So, now we're going to end today's episode with their influence, the wild things, and conservation status. But now, there really is not much to go on, but that's okay because I still wanted to cover this bird anyway. Now, the biggest wild thing that I learned was about their bones. In their vertebrae, there's one vertebrae that's called the atlas and the axis. I just wanted to show you what exactly they look like. Now, these two bones and their neck are permanently fused together, which is perfect for helping the hornbill not only be able to get as much food, but to be able to hold that huge beak. And another thing, so now comes the fun influence part. Thanks to one movie, the red-billed hornbill is now more widely known. That would be The Lion King. Zazu himself is represented as a red-billed hornbill, but obviously they made the colors a little bit more exciting or a better way to stand out from the rest of the animal kingdom in the movies. Now, today I am happy to report that right now the red-billed hornbill is not considered as an endangered species, but of course things can change. And so that's, especially with climate change or habitat loss, or maybe even lack of food, we still need to do our part to keep these areas safe so that we can help continue the hornbill's survival. That's why we need people like ornithologists or even citizens like you, not necessarily in Africa, but throughout wherever you live, and wherever you're watching this video, if you live in that area, it's our job as a citizen scientist that we should report to conservation groups with websites such as iNaturalist, so as to report where we may have seen certain birds so that we can figure out how we can protect them better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I'm afraid, unfortunately, our time in Tsavo has come to an end. So be sure to join me next week as we travel to the African country of Uganda to look into the life of the Turako. But until then, this is Safari Mack, and I will see you all out there.